Hello and a warm welcome to our other episode of Focus on This Week. This is a program that offers crucial and significant discussion with the purpose of influencing positive change and of course sparkling development in Tanzania, in Africa and in the world at large. Leading this program, I am your host Caroline Maleo, and of course we'll be together at the same time and on the same day every weekday. Today on this program we'll discuss about the legacy left by the founding father of the nation, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. And actually today we will look at a place called Butiama, a place which is the birthplace of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, but also the final resting place of our founding father of the nation. And if we can recall, Mwalimu Nyerere was born in 1922, but Mwalimu Nyerere had passed away in 1999. And this year, October 14th, it will mark 26 years since the passing of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. And people are saying it is like Mwalimu Nyerere has refused to die because his philosophy, his vision still live up to date. And actually in honoring the legacy of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, different people, different organizations and governments travel to Butiama every year in order to look at Mwalimu Nyerere's final destination, final place that he was buried into, and actually to remember the history and the legacy that he had left. And actually, an organization called Africa Mashariki Fest has organized a trip to Butiama this September in order to actually honor the legacy of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. We'll hear about that more in this program, so stay with me from the beginning till the end. And here at the studio to dive deeper on today's topic, we are joined with Dr. Kisembo Tendo, who is the Group CEO of Africa Mashariki Fest. And Dr. Tendo, actually, if you get a few minutes to talk to him, you'll actually realize that he's a true Pan-Africanist. You're mostly welcome, Dr. Tendo.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure whenever I visit Tanzania to be hosted on TBC. Thank you.
So, Dr. Tendo, can you tell us what is the main reason behind Africa Fest organizing this trip to Butiama this year?
Well, we as Africa Mashariki Fest, we are a regional youth organization affiliated to the East African Community Secretariat in Arusha, Tanzania. We are headquartered in Uganda, but we have established chapters in Kenya, Tanzania, and Burundi. We are proceeding to open other chapters in other partner states of East Africa. To answer your question, last year on the 14th of October, we had our maiden pilgrimage. We are calling it a pilgrimage deliberately. We are very intentional in our choice of words because, as you may be aware and the viewers out there, that the process for beatification and the canonization of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere to be pronounced as saint by the Vatican is on. And we believe, as Ugandans, for example, that every year on the 1st of June, we have special prayers at Uganda Matters Shrine, Namugongo. These special prayers are dedicated to Mwalimu Julius Nyerere every year, 1st of June. Now, we can't continue to have people traverse the world to come to Uganda for Mwalimu Nyerere's prayers on 1st of June, and we don't have a reciprocal journey to Butiama, where Mwalimu was born and where he was taken to rest. So last year we had our maiden journey to Butiama, and it was a success. It was attended by diplomats, it was attended by university students, secondary school students, security agencies, and different people, Pan-Africans, those who believe in Mwalimu Nyerere. Yes.
Thank you so much for that explanation. And actually you said the event last year was a success. How did you measure the impact, the success that you're talking about?
Well, last year, coincidentally, we had 2 anniversaries in one. Last year we were marking 25 years of the revived East African community. You see, the community was revived in 1999. Okay, so from 1999 to 2014, we're looking at 25 years of the revived East African community. Similarly, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere passed on in 1999. So last year we were commemorating 25 years after the passing on of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. So it was 2 in 1. And why do I call it a success? One, we had the publication. We published a book where we took stock of the events that happened when Mwalimu Nyerere was alive and a leader, and then we looked at the East African community 25 years down the road. What have we achieved? Where are the challenges? And how do we proceed? This is a purely youth-led initiative, non-partisan. We are not into politics, but we believe the integration of East Africa is our heartbeat. And the framers of the new treaty for the establishment of the East African community stated clearly it should be private sector-led and people-centered. So that book made that event unique because our president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the president of Uganda, wrote the foreword of that book. And so many diplomats paid tribute to Mwalimu Nyerere in that special book. What makes the book also special is that it was bilingual. It was both in English and Kiswahili. We sent it to the National Swahili Council, BAKITA, here in Tanzania. They translated the book. And on the 30th of November, copies were presented to all the presidents in Arusha during summit, because we came out of Butiama with a resolution, which we also shared with the presidents. These are the demands of young people in the journey of integration. So this year, 2025, we are in for the second edition of this journey.
And actually, what is it that made your organization, it is a youth-led organization, to decide to put focus on Mwalimu Nyerere, on Butiama? Why not on something else?
Well, Africa was blessed during the liberation struggles. We had so many Pan-Africanists, revolutionaries, from the SADC states, from the ECOWAS states, and the East African community. But Mwalimu Julius Nyerere stands out. We had our very own in Uganda. I'm a Ugandan. We had our very own Dr. Apollo Milton Obote, okay, one of the founding fathers of the East African community. We celebrate him because these were visionary leaders. When Tanzania got her independence, it's on record that Mwalimu Nyerere chose to delay the celebrations of Tanzania's independence and said, look, we can't celebrate as Tanzania when our neighbors, Uganda and Kenya, haven't gotten theirs. Let's wait for them, let's support them, so once we've all gotten independent, then we can merge and form a bigger family called the East African community. Then we can celebrate together. That is a rare breed of a leader. Yes.
Definitely. That's a rare breed of a leader. We'll come into that a little later on. But can you tell us what legacy stands out about Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere? We understand that more than 60% of the young people in our continent, 60% of the total population is comprised of young people. Yes, and some weren't born when Mwalimu died. So what legacy stands out about Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere?
Quite a lot is out there to be learned and appreciated by more so the Gen Zs, the young generation, as you rightly stated. Africa as a continent is grappling with so many challenges, but we've underscored one key challenge, and that's leadership. Mwalimu Nyerere is a towering Pan-African, and as you rightly stated, kwa Kiswahili wanasema mwalimu amekufa lakini amegoma kufa. Indeed, he's here to stay. His legacy lives on. A case in point, servant leadership. Servant leadership. Mwalimu, during his time in power, we saw quite a lot happening when he dedicated his whole service to humanity. When you look at the liberation struggles, a case in point, these frontline states, your neighbors here, Zimbabwe, Zambia, all the way down to South Africa, these countries, I would say, would have taken longer than it took them to gain independence if it wasn't for the visionary leadership of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere. Come to Uganda, our country. Our current president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, drew a lot of inspiration from Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere and is a proud student of Mwalimu Nyerere. We see that he's now the glue that is holding the integration together. This is something that his colleagues, heads of state in the community, salute him for, because he picked the spirit of promoting integration from Mwalimu. He means well for the community, and we can only survive as a region when we unite. Let's look at another challenge that we face today on leadership. That is the primitive accumulation of wealth. Kwa Kiswahili wanasema kujilimbikizia mali. Now, again, as a challenge with our current leadership, throughout the continent, somebody is appointed a minister, somebody is appointed in an office. In hardly 2-3 years, a lot of things have come up, mansions, big cars, what? That wasn't what Mwalimu stood for. We are very intentional in choosing Butiama. Butiama, which is Mwalimu Nyerere's ancestral home, birthplace, resting ground. When you go there, you'll see the humility, the kind of life Mwalimu lived. And we are very intentional in drawing young people across Africa to Butiama to go and see where a towering Pan-African, a celebrated icon, came from. These days, if a leader is given an office, voted into power, the first one term, you will see a lot of transformations in their home areas. I'm not saying this shouldn't be done, but Mwalimu was selfless, to answer you straight. Mwalimu was selfless. And he dedicated most of the Tanzania's resources during the liberation struggle to support other genuine Pan-African causes.
Now there with what you just explained, some critics say that if Mwalimu wouldn't have done that to help other countries to get liberated, Tanzania would have been somewhere far. They have such a selfish mindset.
I think that's, respectively speaking, it's a myopic argument. I happen to have had the opportunity to engage with the leadership or in Cuba. When you look at the Communist Party in Cuba during the liberation struggle, Fidel Castro dedicated Cuban resources to support many countries on the African continent. Now, these are thousands of kilometers away. Now, what would have prompted Fidel Castro in Cuba to send fighters, to send machines, to send food, to send doctors to support the liberation struggle of African countries? Now, like I said earlier, Mwalimu Nyerere, Fidel Castro, these are rare breeds of leaders, visionary. Now, you wouldn't tell me that Mwalimu's decision to use Tanzania's resources to support the liberation struggle of the frontline states and the other countries on the continent made Tanzanians poor. To me, of course, I would think that every period has its own demands. The demands of the time required unity, required coordination, required mobilization, and if country X needed independence but wasn't in a position to do it on their own, they needed support. And here was Mwalimu who ably did that. And that makes it the main reason why we celebrate him, not many of his contemporaries.
Thank you so much for that explanation. And I'm curious, why don't we have such visionary leaders? Can we say that, do we have these visionary leaders like Mwalimu, the people who led without the selfish mindset? Now we see that the leaders that we have, some of them, when they get into power, as what you just explained, they're just there to embezzle themselves and make themselves rich. Do we have these visionary leaders now?
It's a bit of a challenge. You know, in Kiswahili, we have a saying, people say that, tuambizane ukweli. We need to be factual and truthful to ourselves. And we advised as young people to talk truth to authority. It's biblical. We must have that candid kind of discussion. Most of the African leaders are selfish. And number two, this first of all, has made Africa lag behind. See, when Mwalimu Nyerere was in power, he would have chosen, as we said, to amass wealth, build empires in Butiama, but we have just said he dedicated resources towards supporting genuine causes of liberation across the continent. We have, Africa is not, we've not run short of Pan-African leaders, and the case in point, I would give my president, I will keep referring to him, reason, he's the glue, I repeat, that is holding the integration of our region together right now, President Museveni. Mama Samia is doing her part. The current chair of summit, President William Ruto of Kenya, is doing his part. Other colleagues of theirs, the heads of state, each is doing their part. But they're not doing enough. And this is a challenge. So as young people, we believe that we need to tell our leaders that, look, we appreciate you in power, you are our leaders, but your policies don't seem to resonate with the aspirations of the founding father. Right now, we still have countries clinging on to charging East Africans money to pay for visas to access their countries. Now, such restrictions, non-tariff barriers, we've had border closures here and there. Now, this wasn't the spirit. So when you ask me that we have visionary leaders currently, I would say we have them, but they are selfish, and this is a challenge, and we need to address such challenges by having and voting leaders who are committed to the integration of our region and unity of our continent.
Thank you so much. You explained a lot of things that I have so many other questions that I want to ask.
Oh, please.
Now let's talk about the part that you said we need to speak truth to authority.
Yes.
We remember that Mwalimu Nyerere had once said that youth should be confident enough to question and stand against maybe bad leadership or the things that they see. But now if we look into what's happening, let's say in the East Africa region, let's take a look at Kenya when the Gen Zs protested. Like there are things that are going on online. Young people are maybe insulting the leaders. Yes, they're seeing things and they're attacking. Do you think this is what Mwalimu Nyerere wanted, or it's the young people are using the wrong approach?
I would respond from an angle of frustration. Young people have gone to school. They have studied history, and they have known what the founding fathers, the framers of East African Community and African Union envisioned. A visa-free East Africa, a visa-free Africa, where there is free movement of people, goods and services. Where young people, you are here as a journalist, you would want to cross and go to Lagos and get a job there because you qualify. You would want to go and work with the South African Broadcasting Corporation, okay? You qualify. But one, if you dare say, I want to move to Joburg or Pretoria, one, visa. Two, the exorbitant charges on air tickets. Now, these things have made young people frustrated, okay? And whereas we don't support and condone the attacks of the current Gen Zs, but now this is a generation where social media, the internet, has empowered everybody to speak out their mind. And rightfully so, our leaders have not been genuine enough to offer services to our people. So, vijana wameamka, young people are now alive to the fact that we have bad leaders whom we have entrusted with power. And we are likely to see a wave going forward of most of the leaders being voted out of office because we need people who are pro-unity of Africa. We need people who are pro the aspirations of Mwalimu Nyerere and other Pan-Africanists who believed in the unity. Let me ask you a question. Tanzania gets independence. If Mwalimu was to be a selfish leader, he would have gladly and quickly mobilized Tanzanians, celebrated your independence, and move on. You don't mind what's happening in the neighborhood. Now, seeing that Mwalimu said no, yes, we have our independence, thank you, but can we buy time and support the others to join us? We also give it to them. They would have refused. after Uganda getting independence and Kenya getting independence, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta and Dr. Milton Obote would also have said we don't want to unite. They were visionary. They saw that we can't survive on our own. Tanzania wouldn't survive on its own, neither would Uganda or Kenya. So they chose to merge. What happens now? You hear that today Tanzania has issues with Kenya, the border is closed. Tomorrow Rwanda has issues with Uganda, the border is closed. Does that play into the spirit of integration? Because when you close the border, you two leaders have misunderstandings, and you've closed the border. What happens to the ordinary wananchi? As I'm seated here in the studio, we have trucks from Tanzania crossing to Uganda, to Kenya, to Rwanda. We have trucks from Uganda, you know, that's the spirit. Because integration, ideally, for the viewers out there, is about three main things. One is a common market within which to trade. Number two, strategic security for our region. You know, if Tanzania, God forbid, this is an island of peace, Tanzania ni kisiwa cha amani, lakini there is no country that is immune to conflict. Now, God forbid, if Tanzania got issues today, Tanzania won't stand alone. Tanzania will definitely ask for support from the neighborhood. That is Uganda and Kenya. That is strategic security. Number three, let's look at infrastructure connectivity. Whereas the road network in Tanzania would be fine, but the trucks in Tanzania don't end in Tanzania, they cross borders. Now, when we merge and form a community, we have highways from Dar es Salaam all the way to Nairobi, another one going down south to Zimbabwe, Zambia, and all that, another one crossing to Rwanda. Now, why do we merge? We merge to attain those three, among others.
Dr. Tendo, and if there are these important advantages, why is this vision still not a reality? EAC was formed many years ago. Yes. African Union was formed many years ago. Why do we still have these barriers?
Selfishness of our leaders. Let me put it clear. I always attend the AU Heads of State Summit in Addis Ababa. And we had a discussion during the last summit when we had the AU Commission chair elections, where Mzee Raila Odinga was contesting with this, the current chair of the AU Summit. We were asking ourselves, if these leaders left their countries as presidents, landed in Addis Ababa, entered into the Mandela Plenary Hall, and now an announcement is made that Your Excellencies, we welcome you to Addis Ababa. You came in here as heads of state from your respective countries, but in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, in the spirit of our founding fathers' visions, we request to drop the titles of president. We request you to elect one amongst yourselves here as the president of African Union, okay? Then you guys will go back to your respective countries as governors. Now, let me ask you, who would take such a decision serious? Because of selfishness. When you look at a country like Burundi, South Sudan, to the viewers out there, the economy, the GDP of Burundi as a country, and the GDP of Nairobi as a capital city are more or less the same. Now, the governor, Sakaja, the governor of Nairobi, manages an economy equivalent to that of a whole country called Burundi. Now, you have a president in Burundi, you have a governor in Nairobi who manages a bigger economy than a whole country. Now, these are just the provinces that need to unite and serve people. Now, South Sudan, you want to go to Congo, these are members of the community. Up to now, DRC Congo continues to charge East Africans money for visas. Now, that beats the spirit of unity. That's why the Gen Zs are tired and they are saying, wait a minute. When we get time, go to Butiama, sit down at Mwalimu Nyerere's, take stock of the 26 years ever since the community was revived. where are we and how are we moving forward? So we need to have that discussion. And this cannot be achieved politically. The wananchi have to be involved. That's why, even if there are misunderstandings at summit level, cross-border trade, cross-border movement of people has to proceed. Because now if Mama Samia woke up tomorrow and has a misunderstanding with President Ruto and say the border is closed, who will suffer? It's the wananchi. Because by the time they order the border to be closed, kuna magari ya watu yanatoka Tanzania crossing to Kenya. Kuna magari ya Wakenya wafanyabiashara that are coming to Tanzania. When you close the border, what happens? That's not the spirit. So it ceases to be a presidential thing. It comes down to the ordinary wananchi.
Now to the ordinary Africans. Do they really have that spirit of we are Africans? Or they see that we are like, I'm a Kenyan and you are Tanzanian and you are Ugandan. You're not from my country, so you're not a part of me because of the, the demarcations that they were put in the Berlin Conference. So I feel like you are not as I am. Is it a problem with
one and the same? For the ordinary people, just to answer you straight, for the ordinary Africans, we know that we are brothers and sisters. Whereas I'm seated here in the studio, when I move out of here, the first call I will make probably will be to somebody in Nairobi or to somebody in Lusaka. You yourself might be calling someone in Bujumbura. For us as the wananchi, we relate. Okay?
But the problem is with the leaders.
The problem comes with the leadership. Because now, if we are not guided and the policies don't favor what, you don't make the environment conducive by restricting movement of people, you're restricting movement of goods and services, you are putting restrictions on each and everything, and you are acting with a lot of suspicion on every move made. You're like, what are they trying to achieve here? So most of the African leaders are insecure because they are selfish.
With what you're explaining, my brain took me to Burkina Faso. We heard that recently President Traoré has removed all the visa to Africans who wants to get to Burkina Faso. So it means this is something that can be achieved.
Thank you so much, my sister. 2 months ago, I was in Burkina Faso, I was in Mali. I visited the 3 Sahel states. I was in Niger, I was in Mali, and Burkina Faso. I witnessed firsthand. In the month of April, our organization organized an international Kiswahili conference in Uganda, and we invited East Africans to come and join us, rally Ugandans, to embrace Kiswahili. Our president and other leaders embraced the idea, and we got the support. Now, when we finished the conference, I was invited to go to Mali. There was an international youth engagement where I was invited as one of the guest speakers. And it was also intentional. Sahel states, it's an alliance, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. They have taken a deliberate move to adopt Kiswahili and drop French. This is known to the viewers out there. This isn't propaganda, this is not hearsay. I, seated here talking to you, I've been in Burkina Faso, I've been in Mali and in Niger. I met the king in Mali, I also met the minister of culture. We engaged. They are willing and ready. So I actually reached out immediately to the stakeholders like Bakita and the Bakiza in Zanzibar to see that let us begin organizing teachers, Kiswahili teachers, because now, in Kiswahili we said, isn't it fulsa? We are now having opportunities, job opportunities for Kiswahili teachers to go out there and teach the language. Now, it is doable, it is possible. If President Traoré can wake up and say, I am declaring Burkina Faso visa-free to all African passport holders. Let me ask you, how much money, if we are to have a candid discussion, how much money do these countries get from the 50, 100 visas they charge? And how much volume of trade would they gain if they opened up and there is an influx of people, one, tourists. Now, I came to Tanzania last week. When I landed, first of all, I bought an air ticket on Air Tanzania. When I landed, I got an airport taxi to drive me from Mwanza all the way to Butiama. I stayed in a hotel. I ate food. I've worked with people in the community, giving them assignments on what to do. Now, how much money have I spent in a week in Tanzania alone? If we had 100,000 people, Air Tanzania gets business, hotels get business. Now, and it goes back to the governance issue, being myopic. When you allow people to come, first of all, ensure that there is security. Ministry of Internal Affairs and other security agencies have to enhance their vigilance. Because again, we live in a tricky period of terrorism, but that shouldn't make us block free movement of people. If President Nyerere has done it, we have seen Ghana, we have seen President Ruto declaring Kenya visa-free for Africans. These are smart moves. Flights land in Nairobi, I don't know how many per day. These people come with money. Now, country X, ikishikilia kwamba you must pay visas. Now, they are losing out. They are losing out. These, we are one and the same. Why do you ask me for, when I land at Mwalimu Julius Nyerere Terminal 3 here, kuna swali ambalo naulizwa mara nyingi. They always ask me, doctor, how long are you going to be here? That is an unfortunate question, my sister. I have come home. This is another home. It's the next village to mine. I've come to meet brothers and sisters. And you're asking me, what brings me here? How long am I here? Now, this should be asked to me when I'm going to US, when I'm going to Europe. But I have left Uganda to go to Nairobi, and they're asking me, why are you here? How long are you here? These are not genuine questions to be asked. Yeah. So, in conclusion, if our leaders sat and said, and it's doable, that it's a resolution that can be passed when they meet in AU in Addis Ababa, that as leaders on the continent, other factors remaining constant, we are giving it a year or two. We need to declare Africa visa-free. And as young people, I guarantee you, the campaign is on to push them to do that, and it will happen. Because we can't afford to continue taking a back seat, leaving these matters, because this is our future. This is absolutely our future. So we must we support them. The leadership is there. We vote them into power. But they shouldn't be a hindrance to progress.
Thank you so much for that explanation. Now let's talk about the Kiswahili language with the explanations that you just provided. We clearly remember that Mwalimu Nyerere spoke of Kiswahili language to be used as a unifying language for East Africa and for the whole of the continent. So with what you just explained, it's like the vision is coming to a reality, but it hasn't come to the reality for the whole of the African continent. So can you tell us what initiatives are in place first for the East African community to put Kiswahili language as the language of the East African community, and what initiatives are in place for the whole continent now to use this language as a unifying language?
Thank you. On paper, we have commendable progress. On paper.
Why on paper?
Kiswahili language, I'll talk about Uganda for starters. Kiswahili language in Uganda gained an official status. So Kiswahili is an official language in my country, Uganda, equally in Kenya and Tanzania here, and a few other countries have made Kiswahili official. Kiswahili as a language gained official status at the AU Secretariat in Arusha. So I can ably go to the Secretariat and address a congregation there, a meeting there in Kiswahili, and I'll be in line. Okay? We have seen Mama Samia, President Samia Suluhu Hassan, during summit. She addresses the region in Kiswahili. Sasa kama hujui Kiswahili, shauri yako, jipange. And I always see President Ruto, President Museveni, they are busy, and President Ndayishimiye smiling and enjoying her speech. Now, to those other heads of state who haven't grasped Kiswahili, now it's upon them to pull up their socks, to also learn the language, because it's official. Kiswahili has also gained official status at the AU in Addis Ababa. It's a working language among the other languages, French, you know, and Arabic. These are the languages accepted at the AU. But, like I said on paper, practically, we believe, first of all, like we are here speaking English, 60 plus years after independence. When you go to China, as a trader, I'm privileged. I thank God that because of what we do, we keep traversing the world, doing a lot of Pan-African engagements. Go to China, enter a mall or a shop. The Chinese will be understanding what you're saying, but will never answer you in English. It's deliberate. They are proud of their language. Go to Russia, okay? Go to Korea. Okay, South Korea, Koreans somehow speak English, but they are proud of their language. It's us now, Africans, because of the colonial mentality. Up to now, we take pride in speaking this too much English. But we know as scholars that Kiswahili is purely our own. Kiswahili ni lugha yetu. It is our own. So we can also feel proud. Why are Chinese studying Swahili? Go to Chinese universities. Go to universities in the US. A few years ago, the Republic of South Africa requested the government of Tanzania and Kenya for Kiswahili teachers. And as we speak, so many Tanzanians Kiswahili teachers, Kenyan Kiswahili teachers, even Ugandans are in South African schools teaching Kiswahili. That's a bold move. You give it 10 years, those getting out of the school system will be speaking Swahili. These things don't change overnight. It's a process. Uganda, the same. We are teaching Swahili from primary schools, secondary, and tertiary institutions. Now, if a country like Burkina Faso that has been speaking French has taken a bold move to take baby steps towards adopting Kiswahili, what makes other countries not copy from that? So for us to be proud as Africans and own our destiny, one language, which is part of what will make us proud, and it's a language that our founding father, Mwalimu Nyerere, used to forge that unity between Tanzania, mainland, and Zanzibar. And that unity, the unification, is still solid, other factors notwithstanding.
Thank you so much for that explanation. With the last thing that you just spoke about, the unity, and we see that the union between Tanganyika and Zanzibar is one of the most remarkable unions. What lessons do other countries draw from this union?
I think before any form of union is forged, genuineness has to come out. There must be reasons why you are forging unity. Mwalimu and Mzee Karume had their reasons. For starters, Mwalimu, of course, as a pioneer, the visionary, and engaging his colleague from the other side, that look, let's come together, let's form a united republic so we can be able to go back to what we said, widen our market, forge our strategic security. Because Kisiwa cha Zanzibar, where it is, the island, if at all it had a challenge which is security related, it can't stand on its own. It needs reinforcement from Tanzania mainland. That's number two. Apart from the market, we now look at that security. Number three, also infrastructure. Now, if by that time Zanzibar didn't have an airport, for example, and Zanzibaris had to land Tanzania mainland, then take a boat, cross to the island. If you chose to, that's why we say no man is an island. If they chose to isolate themselves, then they would lag behind in terms of development. No, these were genuine leaders. They understood what benefits would accrue from the unity. unlike our current leaders, who are even willing to pull out of the integration because of selfish and myopic ideas. We are saying as young people, I'm saying these words respectively, it is painful for me as a person from the year 2006 to date. I have keenly been following the developments regarding the integration of our region. We are not walking the talk. We are just sloganeering. Yet, what makes these leaders not wake up tomorrow and say that we are forming a unified East African airspace? Let me give an example to the viewers out there. When you're in Nairobi, the distance between Nairobi and Mombasa and the distance between Nairobi and Kampala is the same. Now, a flight ticket from Nairobi to Mombasa is $50. Up and down $100 you would pay. A flight ticket of the same distance from Entebbe to Nairobi is $400, $500. Now, I am paying almost 1.5 to 2 million Tanzania shillings, yet the other one is paying $50 because of international flight. Let's look at these things from a genuine angle.
But if you're saying our leaders are not walking the talk, are not seeing this, who should remind them then?
We have technocrats. You see how the community is structured. For them, they are the decision makers, but they are devised. After the summit, we have the Council of Ministers. Now, every minister in charge of ES affairs is part of the Council of Ministers at the Secretariat. Then we have the Secretariat itself and our regional parliament, the East African Legislative Assembly. We also have the court, where we have matters. Country X has issues with country Y. Now you have a court where to run to get justice. The problem is one, even because of selfishness, even the technocrats, okay, who are supposed to genuinely sit and advise our leaders that for the way things are, for us to push forward, there are certain things that need to be dropped. We must cede some powers. Sovereignty is the biggest challenge. Look at Umoja Bid. We've just been, I hope you're a football fan. You've been, we've been having this AFCON, okay, that has been happening here. The Pamoja Bid, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, hosting these African games. Now, I wanted to switch to Kiswahili, nikuulize swali. If Tanzania had put in a bid, Tanzania alone, to host these games, would it manage?
No.
Do you have enough infrastructure to host African games? No. Thank you. If Kenya had done that, or Uganda, would we have one?
No.
But when we came together, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and we put in a bid to jointly host the entire continent, we got the opportunity. And in 2027, teams are coming in here for CHAN. What do we learn from this? Ni msemo wa Kiswahili, umoja ni nguvu, kutengana ni udhaifu. So we don't need rocket science. As you have said, President Traore wakes up and says, no visa charges to any African coming to my country. Has that country collapsed?
No.
Now what is making other countries hold on to these colonial borders? We were in Ghana a few months ago, and an organization called Africa Rising began collecting signatures. We want to petition the AU. We want to push them. You see, at some point where diplomacy fails, because this is our future. Some of our leaders, respectively speaking, on the continent have lived their future. So if we don't take charge of our future, it's a challenge. And that explains why we must have a candid sit down, take stock, and where things are not working, we talk to the leaders. As people have been brought up well, in Africa, respect is paramount. This is not Europe. Africa is not USA, where these guys of rights, a child talks to a senior person anyhow, no. But we are saying, if your dad, kama baba ni mlevi, kila siku comes home drunk, na halipi ada, you must be bold enough. You time him when he's sober, you say, Dad, this is not right. And that's what takes us to Butiama, to sit down, take stock, and also add our voice to other voices, to call upon the Pope and the Vatican. Tell me if Mwalimu is not unique. Which other politician has ever been put in that category that we are praying for him to be pronounced a saint? A politician. So he's a rare breed of a leader.
Indeed, Mwalimu Nyerere is the rare breed of a leader. Now let's talk about something else. When you were explaining, you spoke about conflicts.
Yes.
I am curious to understand if our founding fathers of our African nations worked hard to make sure that there is unity in the African continent. Why do we still have these conflicts that are going on right now? You can see conflicts, let's say, between Congo and Rwanda. There is conflict within the nations. The conflicts are there. What's not happening? Are we really not living the legacy that the founding fathers of our nations left?
It again goes back to holding on to the colonial masters. You see, Europe and the US are threatened when we unite. Whoever is out there is threatened when we unite. Now, most of our African countries are at war, but when you interrogate closely who is funding either side of the conflict, you'll be shocked that the support is not coming from our own brothers and sisters. It is the infiltration, the hand of the colonial master. And
why are we entertaining this form of neocolonialism up to now?
That is now the leadership thing, the challenge of our leaders being selfish. You are told, for example, most of the countries, Tanzania is in for elections. Uganda, we are in 2 campaigns as well. 12th January, we are having elections. You guys, October, you have elections. Now, most of the African countries, what happens? When it is campaign time, you realize that even the money used by these politicians in campaigns, some of that money comes from these colonial masters. Now, and we know who pays the piper, so goes the saying, calls the tune. Now, if kama tuko kwenye uchaguzi na umechukua hela ya mtu and you have used somebody's money, those terms and conditions will apply. Now, it's until we get back to the drawing board and have that candid discussion where we say that let's drop the issue of presidency. Like I painted an example earlier. If we agree that these so-called presidents, respectively speaking, become governors, and we have one head of state for Africa, then the ego, the primitive accumulation of wealth, bad governance will tone down.
Now let's talk about something else, because the time is going. We clearly understand that during the leadership of Mwalimu Nyerere, he trusted young people. And in his first cabinet of ministers, we could see that he appointed ministers who were in their 30s, in their 40s, like really young people. He trusted them. Now we see that some of the African leaders, it's like they don't trust young people. Or I don't know, you will explain. You can see that a leader is in power for so long. He doesn't want to step out. Is it that they do not believe that these young people, there is another young person who can take over the position, or is it democracy? What's happening?
I think that talks more into mentorship. Any leader, let's look at it from a family level. If a dad fails to groom one of his children, or his children in general, to be here, in this angle, what I'm trying to bring out is that mentorship is very important, and most of our leaders look at us as threats. Most of the leaders look at, as young people, as threats. Mwalimu Julius Nyerere mentored President Museveni. Okay? Mwalimu Julius Nyerere mentored President Museveni. President Museveni took power. There is a concern out there, because I engage with different people, that Dr. Tendo, you come from Uganda. Sorry, but we said we must have a candid discussion. Your president has been in power for over 40 years. Why don't you have transfer of power peacefully and all that? Now, each country historically has unique ways. Okay, each country is unique in its own way. The politics around. Like I said earlier, we are optimistic that at one point the East African community integration will come to fruition. But this, as we speak now, the current glue holding this community to date is President Museveni. When Somalia got issues, it's the UPDF, our army, that went to pacify that place to have relative peace. South Sudan, Central African Republic, most of these countries in the region, that mentorship was gotten from Tanzania. When Uganda had issues with the Tanzania, way back, umezungumzia vita vya Kagera, when President Amini had ousted President Obote, you saw how Mwalimu did to support his comrade, Dr. Obote, to overthrow, so that President Obote can go back to power. Now, to me, I think if our leaders were to be genuine, when you empower me, when you mentor me as a young man, as a possible replacement, you shouldn't be worried, because you know when I'm in there, your legacy lives on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't they feel ashamed when every day everyone is talking about Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, not their names? Yeah?
Indeed.
When you go to Ghana, everyone is praising Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Okay? Of course, the dynamics are different. When you go to Congo, Patrice Emily Lumumba. When you cross to South Africa, whereas President Nelson Mandela's example also stands out. One, this man incarcerated for 27 years, comes out, leads for one term, leaves office. What do we learn from that? There is life beyond the presidency. Hata ufalme una kikomo. There is life after presidency. I happen to have interacted closely with the late President Moi of Kenya. President Moi led for 24 years, negotiated an exit and handed over power. Went to his cabinet and Kabarak homes. He had a home in Eldoret and in Nairobi. Rested. Security is there. The old man would be consulted by President Uhuru Kenyatta on so many things. Okay? Now, what makes these African leaders fail to say that there is life beyond presidency? Mwalimu Nyerere was still a darling. Up to today, he's a darling. Hata angekuwepo up to today, with 100+ years, Watanzania wangemchagua. Even we Africans would vote Mwalimu Nyerere into power. But he chose to step aside.
And if we can look at Mwalimu Nyerere, he didn't just step off the presidential position. If we go back during the colonial time, he stepped off from the prime ministerial position. If we go back again in 1957, he stepped off the position as a, as a member of parliament in 1959 during the colonial time. So we really see that he was a leader who could do that. He would act the talk.
I think our leaders would be termed as failures if they don't mentor those to take over from them. That quote you just said a while ago, where Mwalimu was talking about the young people taking on the mantle. You know, leadership is a relay. I'm a sports person. When athletes are on the track, you run your part, pass over the baton to the other one. Now you can either cheer them on, or you can give them water, or you play another role. You did your part. But it can't be that it is you and you and you until Jesus comes back. And as young people, we are saying to our leaders, respectively, there are key things that we feel need to be given priority. One is a visa-free, the free movement of people across the continent. Let's have a common language which we can speak. Let the Wazungus come to Africa and also be subjected to learn Swahili so they can communicate to us. And that is doable.
Thank you so much. That indeed is doable. And now we're out of time.
Yes,
Can you just say in few seconds, what do you think Mwalimu Nyerere would have done differently if he would have come back to life now?
First of all, I suppose if Mwalimu Nyerere came back to life today, he would convene an extraordinary summit of the ESC heads of state for starters, and he would be very disappointed with them, and he would now direct them on 1, 2, 3 things to be done immediately as action points, and then he would proceed to Addis Ababa, cause an extraordinary AU heads of state summit, and he would drop the title of president for any of those presidents, and they would vote, elect one president. They would come back as governors of provinces in Africa, and I think he would also direct that Kiswahili as a language going forward should be given priority and spoken day in, day out across the continent, and it is possible.
Indeed, it is possible. I'm being told that we are out of time. But if Mwalimu Nyerere was alive now, he would actually do what Dr. Tendo has actually said. Dr. Tendo, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the amazing explanations that you have provided.
Sorry for the interjection. I wanted to say something to do with the upcoming Twende Butiama pilgrimage safari, that as Africa Mashariki Fest, working together with the government of Tanzania and the government of Uganda and the other stakeholders in the region, we are privileged to announce that our second edition of Twende Butiama pilgrimage safari is happening from the 28th to the 29th of this month in Butiama at Mwalimu Nyerere's. I want to thank the leadership of the United Republic of Tanzania, the Regional Commissioner of Mara Region, and other stakeholders, the family of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, our own President, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, for the support. And we invite all of you, 28th, special mass for Mwalimu Nyerere, 29th, dialogue. Most of the African ambassadors accredited to Tanzania and Uganda, Kenya, they have confirmed their presence. We want to go and sit and have a candid discussion where we take stock of what we have achieved, what is not happening, and how to move forward.
Thank you so much.
Sana. Karibuni Butiama.
Indeed, welcome to Butiama on the dates that Dr. Tendo has explained. Today, dear TBC1 viewers, we discussed about the legacy left by the founding father of the nation, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, and actually the emphasis has been put on his legacy, but also you are invited to Twende Zetu Butiama pilgrimage this month. Leading the program, I was your host, Caroline Maleo. Until next time, bye-bye.